So good afternoon, morning, welcome. This is Steve Wright from Cyrus and Support. I think I was on actual mute when I was just talking then. Welcome to Free Training Friday. We're having a bit of a false start here. It's 4 minutes past the hour. We should be getting going in the next couple of minutes. So please bear with us, and I'll get back to you once we've got our ducks in a row. It should be a minute or so. Thanks very much. Hello, John.
Hello, Steve. You hear me?
There we go.
Okay.
Okay, I think we're still live. We're broadcasting here. I've got 6 minutes past the hour. Again, my apologies for the late start. Welcome, John. How are you doing?
I'm hot. I'm fine. Yeah, it's hot here.
Okay, so again, just a quick intro. We'll be going through some permissions in SCSM, and the format of our sessions are pretty much the same as we always go through. It's try and keep the slides to a minimum, a quick intro, demo, and then outro. Feel free to post your questions to us directly via emails. You can reach us through the community as well. And also, if you're not a member, please sign up and join. There's ongoing information there, as well as past webinars that we've done, and a whole host of information from our peers, some very smart people out there using our products. So definitely worth joining the community. I did put this slide together just real quick, just to kind of give us a bit of a talking space while John gets himself ready. And just three things that we talked about, John and I, in terms of permission issues. The majority of permission issues tend to stem from misconfiguration within SCSM, and the service manager environment is, strictly speaking, not part of the service and the product, because it's we sit on top of that platform. But we often get caught up in just making sure things are working well in SCSM. So it's definitely worth taking the extra time, the extra research. There's a plethora of information around Microsoft's System Center, just to make sure that things are configured in the right way. The second point is syncing with Cache Builder. A lot of the information and the permissions and things come through the Cache Builder service, which brings that information into the service management database. So it's always worth checking login at debug or all, which is the most robust way of looking at the logs, to see that things are coming through in the right way. And lastly, to leverage the tools to check permissions. There are some good snippets of PowerShell scripting, SMlets, which will give you access to the service management commandlets, as well as some SQL stored procedures that are in the service management side of the house within the Cyrus environment, to just make sure things are ticking along nicely. So with all that said, John, do you have anything to add to those 3 points?
No.
All right, cool. And then I'm gonna, if that's okay, I'm just gonna hand over the screen to you. Let me just make you the presenter.
Okay.
Okay, and just let us know when you've got when we've got to view your screen. Okay, we can see your OneNote.
Oh dear, that's not
Yep.
the screen I want to show.
We can
Where
pick another screen
show screen?
under the show screen.
Monitor 2.
There we go. We've got a blue screen right in front of
Yes, that's
a desktop
perfect.
screen. Alrighty, fantastic.
Okay, so well, I thought the easiest thing to do would be to add a new analyst to the Saracen portal and see what problems we could run into as we are doing that. So I have a custom role called Acme Incident Resolvers. I have the user already exists in Active Directory and in SCSM. So I'm going to add him to the role. His name is Steve Looper, and I've added him to my custom incident user role, which gives him the ability to edit incident tickets in the service manager. What do we need to say about this? Yes, as I said, it's very important that this user exists as a configuration item. And there he is. And I've checked already that I've imported him from Active Directory and his distinguished name is correct. He's in that AD. So with that said, now he's an incident resolver. I go to the portal. What I'll do first is I'm going to use this little tool here that James at TANS, my colleague in support, built to restart the cache builder. I'm doing that so that the cache builder reads the data from Service Manager, which has been added. I could wait for a day to go by, but to encourage it to do it immediately, I'll restart the service. So then I will switch over to Steve's desktop, which is here. And let's close that. Open Chrome. And go to Service Desk. So the first thing we'll see is the portal. Obviously, Steve is logged into it, but he doesn't have a new button down here in the corner, which means that he is not registered as an analyst with the portal. So our first job is to check under the admin settings in the portal what group is assigned to for the analysts, Acme analysts. That in order for him to have the view of the analyst portal, he needs to be a member of this group. So I am going to go to here, Acme analysts, and I will add Steve. There he is. Okay, okay, and go back to the server again and restart the cache builder.
So that's a great example of checking upstream to make sure that the user is in the appropriate groups.
So if I now go back to the portal, refresh the page, probably still building, running the cache builder on this, starting this cache build. It's always a little bit slow. Okay, and now
we have.
He's an analyst. It is possible, of course. I'm going to, here we have work item, and he has the ability to create work items. And we're going to concentrate on incidents. Now, these access to these is controlled by a permission within the portal, so you could find yourself looking at work item and this could be all blank. If that is the case, the permissions are set in the work item settings there, work item settings. If you have, oh dear, sorry, I translated it into Thai. Into Thai. Sorry.
That's okay. I think some of our attendees can read that.
Maybe.
Maybe not.
Come on.
That's interesting.
It's we've only just added language support for Thai, so it's not perfect yet, but I'll switch back to English.
There we go.
What I wanted to show was under admin settings, the work item settings. If you've entered groups here, AD groups into these boxes here, then Steve Looper is going to need to be a member of those groups to see that menu item.
Gotcha.
I didn't do that in this case, so but we'll skip that and continue on. So incident, new incident, create an incident. We got an error now. This is caused by the fact that Steve does not have permission to read the template. The default template, which is used for the generation of incidents. If I add onto work item, incident from a template, and pick this, create, I can create an incident. It's created a new incident for me. That's an error that people run into sometimes. It depends on the configuration of the user role. So if we go back here and I check my user roles for incident resolvers, and I look at form templates, I notice I don't have any form templates enabled for anybody. The particular template that is read when you create a default incident or an incident is whatever is set. Again, under admin settings, setting items, there's a default incident template. And we read the type projection that's used to load the form from this template. So that would need to be accessible, whichever that is. So I'm not going to go looking for that, that form. What I'm going to do is just give Steve access to all the incident resolver, access to all the templates. And okay. Now I don't need to restart the cache builder in this instance. can switch straight back to my thing, go new, work item, incident, new incident, and we've got a new incident based on the default template. The previous error was caused by the lack. So, a new ticket. This one I'm actually going to assign to Steve Looper himself, or as the affected user. He's opening a ticket for himself. He's going to classify it that he's got problems on the network, and we will save that ticket. Now, as soon as that is finished saving, I'll click on the link. And it opened. Oh, that's good. Sometimes, if you're very quick, saving a ticket, you can hit a permissions error, even if you are the affected user on the ticket. Let's see if I can do that again. Work item, incident, new incident.
Got to be quicker, John.
Steve Looper, title, quicker, and email problems, save. Nope,
it's going to come up.
It's still working for me.
Alrighty. Well, that's good.
Nice. It's good. It is work item incident. Create a new incident. This time, I'm not going to assign it to myself. Another ticket. Enterprise application, and actually, I will assign it to myself, Steve Looper. And I will
affected user. Okay.
I'm the assigned user. Now, I tried to open it, and this time it failed. It failed because though I'm an analyst, and though I was able to open the previous ticket, I was able to open the previous ticket because of implied permissions. There are a couple of relationships in SCSM which give you permissions to objects and in the database, which by implicitly. So if you are the affected user on a ticket, you have rights to edit that ticket automatically. In this case, Steve wasn't the applied user, the affected user on this ticket, so he wasn't able to open it. And if we go to my work, we see that there are no results, even though he does have a ticket assigned to him. The reason he doesn't have any tickets visible is because of the configuration of the user role. So he's a member of Acme Instant Resolvers. But if we go to queues, he has no access to any queues. So, and I created this earlier, a queue called all the incidents. Actually, we have time. I just run through quickly the, right, so under library, queues, we can create a new queue. We'll call this queue service requests. The work item type is, in this case, service request. Next, here we can apply criteria about tickets that we want to see. We'll leave this blank and it'll collect all criteria, and that's how you create a queue. So we go back to administration. User roles, instant resolvers, queues, all incidents. Okay. And now, because we've changed the security on the tickets, the queues, now if we go back to Windows 10 and we could actually find that ticket we just created, but we still won't see it. And the reason we don't see it is because the scoped access, like what tickets each user can see, is maintained in a table in the in the service management database for the grids, and that's only rebuilt once every 24 hours. It's constantly updated as tickets are created, but these tickets were already created before the scoping was changed, so we're not going to see any changes here. We'll have to restart the cache builder again, which is very okay. That's changed. I'll give it a few seconds to calculate the updates, and we'll go back to here. See, the grid is refreshing. Does that once every 60 seconds. So it's busy.
It's getting there.
There we go. So now we have another ticket, which we just created a few minutes ago. And now we can open that ticket in the portal. And we can add a comment. And we can do all sorts of things. Related items. You can pick a related item. Let's say the Saracen app. We'll add that on, and we can save. There's one gotcha about the current portal. Well, it has been for quite a while. Steve is a scoped user. He can't see service requests. He can only see incidents. If I create a work item, a new incident, and say this will not work. Pick a classification, let's say configuration data problems. And I'm going to assign it to Steve. And I click on the apply button. This is a new ticket. I click on apply. What happens is the ticket will be saved to the server. And then it will immediately try to load the ticket again. Now, Steve should have access to this ticket. It's an incident. He's got his queue. He has permissions on all incidents, but it takes up to 30 seconds to calculate the membership and to determine the permissions on each ticket. So if you try to save it and then read it again immediately, the SCSM hasn't had time to assess the permissions on this ticket. If I try again, still not. Try again. No.
I know in testing it took a good minute or so.
Maybe. No. Of course, well, another thing what it didn't do when it failed was write the ticket to the service management database. Normally, when we successfully save a ticket, it's written both to Service Manager and then it is written into the service management database, so it's immediately available in the grids. When this fails, when this it won't be written into the service management database, and you have to wait for the cache builder to replicate it from Service Manager into Service Management. So that could take a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And there we go. It's now come over.
Okay.
So that's a limitation. Your analysts need to know that the apply button does that. It's fine to use the apply button when you're working with a ticket. Once you've been once your access to the ticket has been determined, then you're free to work the ticket, apply, save the changes, and reopen the ticket again.
So that's a good gotcha for new ticket creation using the apply button.
Yeah, there are. Yeah, we should do something about it. But it affects scoped analysts principally. And that's about all I have to say.
That's good. It's pretty handy. It's interesting that although the steps and the exercises are pretty straightforward, it's good that you can actually speak to what's going on underneath the hood with regards to why something would be slow. The fact that there are checks going on in SCSM, and in the case with the apply process, there's still another process after SCSM has checked permissions, is to actually bring that work item into service management.
Yes.
Which again, if you're not mindful of that, you're clicking around thinking things are going to be instantaneous. And if you just worked a ticket and modified it and pressed apply, it may bring up the question as to why it doesn't work on a new ticket. So it's insightful to just understand that those are things that are going on behind the scenes.
Yes.
And even if sometimes it feels like the training is pretty fundamental in terms of understanding of SCSM. But I just want to be mindful that we have a whole range of customers that are not necessarily experienced or expertised in the SCSM platform, and they're using or hired Cyrusson to make their SCSM life easier. But it does require some basic understanding of what's going on underneath the surface.
Yes.
We didn't get a chance to touch on some of the documentation that we have, and that is readily available on on the web with regards to some of the user roles and permissions, some of the things that John covered early on to make sure that we understand what is implied and what is explicit, and even some of the tools to see who has permissions where. And actually the SMP helper tool has a couple of those built in with regards to, oh, you're going to go to one real quickly. We can wrap up with that one just to take a look.
Well, yeah, I could run, I've already run it, as you can see. I'll clear screen and we can run the get user permission script, which is available on RKB. If I run that against Steve Looper, it's going through all the user roles. Now it's found that he's a member of our custom end user role. He's found that member of the survey app users role. And he's also found that he's a member of the Acme incident resolvers role. And that's very useful if you're trying to work out what permissions a user has, because permissions in SCSM are cumulative. So, for example, as we saw, Steve had access to one template, if you remember, when I was trying, because one template was visible to all end users, the Blanco incident. That was available to all end users. So even though the incident resolvers had no forms enabled, he did have access to this template through his end user membership. So you've got to be very mindful of that. That as you add users to groups, that the permissions that they have accumulate. They're never denied, never taken away.
That could be a cause for confusion, because in some other scenarios you're sort of slicing and dicing what you can see and can't see based on permissions.
Yes, and for example, if you were to set the end users to see all work items, then it would be pointless having the incident resolvers scoped on queues, because this would be unnecessary, because they would inherit the ability to see all work items from the end user role, which they're a member of also. And this would just add a lot of extra work unnecessarily, because they're not limited to being a member of a role which gives them access to all work items, means that they're not limited by this selection here. That's something to keep in mind. Another thing with the cache builder, for performance reasons, we strongly advise you to keep the roles here to a minimum. If don't build custom roles and leave them specifically assigned to queues or configuration items, like leave them scoped, but not have them assigned to users, because they will still be evaluated during the cache builder restart, and it can add a lot of time to the length of time it takes for cache builder to restart and build the scoped access queues. If you have a custom role that's not assigned to a user, just delete it. It will cause a delay.
And that may lead to some of the things. Some of the times we see people say things get increasingly slower over time. If they're incrementally building building roles, adding on roles and users, and not fully understanding that person already has by an implied role access to all of the queues, and then they start scoping in a different role, and they've got roles that are redundant. It doesn't take long for an environment to get very clogged up, and the cash builder suffers pays the price for that. I can imagine a scenario where the admin's left the company and someone's coming in and not quite sure and doesn't want to delete anything or doesn't want to change too much and starts incrementally adding things. Could be a nightmare. We are way past the bottom of the hour.
Okay.
I'm so grateful for you, John. My apologies once again for the webinar running starting late and running a little bit longer than we usually do. But I definitely wanted to give John the time. He has a wealth of knowledge and some great insight in terms of what we do. I'm going to take control real quick and just show my last slide here. Share my screen, and as always, getting hold of us either through support@siloson.com, or also through our team email, team@siloson.com, for any information, demos, walkthroughs on any of our products. We're happy to work with you on that. And as always, join the community. We'll probably have a posting just kind of to back end on what we covered today. So happy to have you guys join in the discussions and add any comments and tips and tricks that you feel are useful and helpful. So that's it from myself, Steve Ryan, and John. I really appreciate your time, John, today. Thanks for jumping in there at the very last minute, and appreciate all you guys hanging around. And we'll see you again for the next Free Training Friday.
Okay, there's a question. There's a question come through.
There is? Okay, well, we'll take it.
Have you? Well, I was just asking if they're going to if they'll be recording.
Okay. Let me see. Will we get a recording of this sent afterwards? Yes, recordings. What we do is that it goes up to GoToMeeting. I look at it. I just take the ends off, and then it gets posted to our Vimeo location. And we're building a library of all of the FTF webinars, so it will be there. If you give it a day, just so that we can just do some housekeeping on it, it should be available, as well as the old ones as well. So thanks for that question. Alrighty, I'm going to sign off here. Thanks again for your time. Enjoy the rest of your day and your weekend, and we'll talk to you again soon. Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.